Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast. Today with Jacob Maggardin,
Colin Richardson.
and of course, the long-awaited return to the mock draft world. We are looking into a post-combine mock draft. Of course, we've seen the numbers for a lot of these guys, and if you know NFL teams, the numbers pop off the sheet to them too. They don't just look at production. There's guys every year that are taken based on how good a speed do they run, how well are they doing the shuttle drills, how high is their vertical. And there is a couple guys in this draft that are certainly going to move up the board due to how good that combine was. One of which we'll be talking about inside the top five, but we will get there when we get there. Starting off with the number one pick on, this is the easiest pick in the draft. I think that you could just go ahead and lock it in and say the Jets are on the clock. It's going to be Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. He is locked in. I mean, this guy's incredible. He's a really, really good quarterback. He's a big frame. That actually, his combine may have even helped him more to make him look like even more of a star quarterback. Him being 6'4.5", 6'5", built out at a frame at 240, which is a big dude. That maybe shows you why he was able to take that hit in the biggest games and make plays because he is a big dude and can handle that kind of contact. I mean, Ty Simpson, the other quarterback in this draft, was apparently down to 195 playing weight during the season. And when he took hits, it looked like he got hurt. It looked like those hits did a lot to him. Mendoza, on the other hand, wasn't affected. So, really impressive to see him come in as a big quarterback because that's always something teams are looking at. But also, of course, the run that he made, how good he looked, the decision that he made to go to Indiana and be their quarterback was a phenomenal one, and now he's the number one overall pick. Colin, you're going to make the second pick, but first, when I ask you your thoughts on the number one overall pick of Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick for the Raiders. I think he's going to be a really, really good quarterback in the NFL. He's kind of like reminds you of an old style quarterback with, like you said, his bigger frame. He's not, I mean, he is mobile, but not like a Lamar Jackson or
Yeah.
something like that you're starting to see more and more of in the NFL today. So I think he'll be a great pick for the Raiders and hopefully can kickstart that rebuild for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with what you said there. It's kind of today's world of football that you have to have some mobility, but he doesn't have the like Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, those types of speed, that type of mobility. He has the nowadays what you gotta have type of mobility, and the frame is certainly like an old timey quarterback, one of those stand in the pocket and let it fly. Moving on to number two here. Of course, this will be your pick with the Jets. Go ahead and make that.
Yeah, I got the Jets going with Arvell Reese here, linebacker out of Ohio State. He had a really good combine, and I mean he's such a versatile player for the Jets. I mean they're lacking at quite a few positions overall, and they just traded a edge rusher recently. So I think this pick would be great for the Jets. He can rush off the edge. He can also play off-ball linebacker. So really versatile. Like I said, he had a good combine. He's super athletic. Had a great year at Ohio State. He was a huge part of that defense. So I think this pick would be great for the Jets. Like I said, they're struggling quite a bit in a few different places, and he can play edge rusher and off-ball linebacker. So I think you don't really hit two positions with it, but in a way you kind of do. So I think this would be a good pick for the Jets to also start their rebuild.
Yeah, one of the leading tacklers for the Ohio State team in college. Of course, the other one sitting there on the board staring at you. But Arvell Reese, incredible player. Like you said, had a good combine, backed up his legit conversation of him going number two. He backed that up with the combine. So I think that the Jets, like you said, they need everything. They just traded both of their best players during the season to add all these picks and try to start a rebuild. Kyler Murray, that's an enticing piece that's now on the market. Do the Jets go sign him instead of drafting a quarterback? Who knows? But they're going to go with a top tier player, maybe the number one guy in this board, in Arvell Reese after Mendoza is off the board. So love the pick for the Jets. I think it's certainly a good one to try to kickstart that rebuild, like you said. Moving on to number three here with the Cardinals. This is a team that, like I just said, cut Kyler Murray. They do not have a quarterback going into next season. I'm on the boat that Jacoby Brissett played good enough to bring him back. It doesn't seem that that's the direction they're heading. We will see what happens with him. He's going to be an enticing name on the free agent market, but there's just not a quarterback out there to take at number three. If Dante Moore was in this draft, I think they'd be more than happy to take him at three. Without that happening, I think you just look at what is the best available player. What is a guy that could come in immediately help this team? And you're looking at a guy in David Bailey who has also boosted his stock a little bit with the combine. Did well there, ran quick. Talked about that first 10 yards, which is about all an edge rusher ever needs. He was at a 1.5 coming off in that first 10 yards. So he's getting to your quarterback in under 2 seconds. That's when they're taught to throw the ball. So he's getting there before they get rid of it. That is an important part of his game. The on the field drills. They didn't look as good with a David Bailey as they have with other guys. And we're just going off of combine stock in this draft today, post combine. I think he has the ability to go this high. I might not be as high on him, but a lot of the sports world, a lot of the media guys, they are. And they're the ones that were at the combine listening to what teams were saying. And David Bailey has moved up boards for some people and maybe fell down the boards for others. I don't know, but I know that he's rumored to be going this high potentially. I think the Cardinals, again, can use any good football player to help this team out. An edge rusher like David Bailey certainly could do that. The production value that he brought was really high. One of the top sack getters in college football last year. Good pick there to the Cardinals. Of course, this will be the wrinkle in the draft. His favorite team is the Steelers. My favorite team is the Titans. If you've been here before, you know that. If not, that's our favorite teams. I'll be making the pick for my team. He'll be making the pick for his. So I'm going to go twice in a row here to take the Titans at 4. And again, post combine, what are we hearing out of the combine? It is reported that the Titans' number one player on the board is running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. And if you know the Titans and you know the Oilers, this franchise as a whole has a Mount Rushmore of running backs that might be better than anybody else's in all of football history. You're talking about Earl Campbell, you're talking about Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry, multiple 2,000-yard rushers, and a team that has just built on the back of their running backs. They have always done that. A guy like Jeremiah Love could be the very next guy to add. Heck, they might need to put a fifth head on the Mount Rushmore if Jeremiah Love is that good for the Titans. So I think that is where they go here, especially with the rumors out of the combine. And again, they could be putting a smokescreen out there and trying to get somebody to trade up in front of them. And a team like the Chiefs or the Commanders that really need a running back, they might do that. And that could help the Titans because somebody like a David Bailey or an Arvell Reese might drop down the board a little bit. Or heck, maybe even the Titans could be the team that trades back with those teams and just adds more draft capital. But to me, you're getting more than a running back when you draft Jeremiah Love. You're getting a playmaker. You're getting a receiver. He went out and did his combine with the running backs. He didn't need to do that. He was going to be the best running back in the class. He was clearly going to go before the rest of them, but he did it anyways. First of all, I think that shows his character. Then number two, he goes and runs routes with the wide receivers at the combine, and he looks good out there. He looks like a receiver. The Titans don't just need a running back. They need a playmaker, a guy that can help Cam Ward. Jeremiah Love, of all players in this draft, could absolutely do that. I think he's the number one playmaker in this draft. So I guess that's a lot of love for Jeremiah Love. But again, as a Titans fan, if that's who we take, I would be more than happy with it. Look at some of these running backs that have been drafted high. Jahmyr Gibbs, what did he do to change that Detroit Lions offense? So much for them. Bijan Robinson with the Falcons, clearly the best player on that football team, makes a difference every time he touches the field. I think it's absolutely worth it. Go get him. Cut Tony Pollard as much as he is a good player. That saves you a lot of money in salary cap and lets you do other things with that money and bring in Jeremiah Love. Let him be your superstar running back for years to come. Again, I'm kind of falling in love with that pick the more and more I talk about it. Moving on to number 5 here, Colin, with the Giants. We're going to go.
Yeah, I've got him taking Sonny Styles, another linebacker out of Ohio State. They showed a little depiction of Sonny Styles and Kyle Hamilton side by side, and Sonny Styles has actually had a more athletic combine than Kyle
Yep.
Hamilton, which is insane. He is a converted safety, but I bring that up because John Harbaugh is now the coach there in New York. So I think a converted safety comparable to Kyle Hamilton, and you saw what Harbaugh was able to do with Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore with the Ravens. So I think this pick would be great for the Giants. I think John Harbaugh would be able to use his versatility. I don't know that you would see him play safety, but at the end of the day, he's a really, really good linebacker, super athletic, and he had an insane combine. So I
Yep.
think that really helped his draft stock tremendously. So I think this pick would be great for the Giants and moving forward. You get a super versatile defensive piece.
Yeah, and when they talk about relative athletic score, that is a score that they use to determine how good was a combine. He graded out at a 10.0. It's a perfect score in the relative athletic score. But the other impressive part of that is if you take his combine and you move it to receiver, he graded out as a 10.0. If you take his combine and you move it to safety, he graded out as a 10.0. And if you take his combine and move it to running back, he graded out as a 10.0. So that is all the athletic positions around him that he's still just as good, if not better, than guys playing those positions. It is unbelievable how good of a combine he just had. He is one of the best prospects in this draft, no doubt. And with a draft like this one, a linebacker could go that high because of how good he is. There isn't really super high level players at the edge position. I mean, there's a guy like Ruben Bain who had an awesome season, but then he has the short arms, and that dinks him in the combine, and teams are looking at that, don't love it. David Bailey, who had a great combine, but then he has the weird workouts on the field, and he had the production, but some of that stuff didn't look as good. So a linebacker could fly up the board in this draft more than ever, and this linebacker of all linebackers is unbelievable. And then the Giants, they also just freed up a roster spot for him, cutting Bobby Okereke. Bring in Sonny Styles, let him be your day one starter. He may be even able to rush off the edge here and there. Again, that kind of speed, that kind of size, he could do it. But he is going to be the green dot, number one guy, the linebacker to go for the Giants for the future. I love the pick for them. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns. They're going to be looking at a guy that they are very familiar with as he is in the state that they are in, and that is wide receiver from Ohio State, Carnell Tate. And he had a weird combine. He went out there, looked good in certain things, and then he ran a 4.53, and that is not game-breaking speed. That isn't, the 4.4, the 4.3 that you want to see. But at the same time, we kind of need to ignore that. Look at what he does on the field, because CeeDee Lamb ran a 4.5. I don't think there's any problems with CeeDee Lamb in the NFL. He's one of the best receivers in the league. Puka Nacua didn't run anything special in the combine. Look at how good he is. So again, I think you kind of ignore that a little bit. He was a breakaway guy that could get up and down the field at Ohio State and stretch the field that way. So I think his game speed may be even better than his combine 40-yard sprint. It's a different world when you're on the field playing football with pads on. So I'm no worries at all about his speed. I don't think that that's going to be a concern to teams. And he's an absolute playmaker. He's a guy that the Titans absolutely will consider it for. I think that he's that good of a receiver. He can change a team. But whoever the quarterback is for this Cleveland team, right now it seems like it could be Shador, but with some of the names that are enticing out there on the market, they could go somewhere else. They're going to need a weapon. Jerry Jeudy cannot be your number one wide receiver. And heck, Harold Fannin led them in receiving yards, and that's a tight end. So go out, grab Carnell Tate. You got to watch him a ton. I'd say you probably had scouts at every single Ohio State game. You probably want him and the other receiver that's coming out next year, but really, really good player. Think it's a good pick for the Browns. Colin, moving on number 7 here. What do you got?
Ruben Bain out of Miami here. This Commanders defense is last year was super old, and you could kind of see it how much of a decrease there was from their previous season to this most recent season.
Yep.
They had a really good defense, and then this past season was not so much. You've got currently your best edge rusher is Von Miller, which is another really old piece. So you've got to bring in some young guys on that defense, and I think Ruben Bain here would be a great pick for him at 7. I mean, he was at one point in the season he was top 2 prospect in this draft. So just because he has short arms, he drops down all the way to 7, which is, I mean, if he's producing on the field, I don't care how long your arms are. So I love this pick for the Commanders here. I think they get, like I said, get a little bit younger on defense, and you get somebody who's going to be, I think, can produce right from the get-go.
Yep.
So I think this pick would be great for the Commanders.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. I'm still on the boat of I would be okay with Ruben Bain to go to the Titans at 4. I'd be plenty happy with that pick, so it wouldn't upset me at all. I think he's a really good football player. I think that some of the NFL teams will literally just not draft him because of his arm length. There has never been a guy have double-digit sacks with that short of arms. That doesn't mean he won't be the one to do it. That doesn't mean he won't be the one that breaks the mold. And he's an incredible run stopper. I don't think that's going to change at all. He is very good at shutting down the run game. Well over 50 TFLs in his career in college. So again, a great player at that. And certain schemes he probably will work even better in, where he can shift down inside and play a little bit more like a D tackle, but edge rush as well, get off and use his speed and his ability. But again, I think he's a really good football player, and a really good football player to a team that really needs some defensive players is a good pick in my mind. So I think that they would be more than happy with Ruben Bain there at number 7. Moving on to our next pick here, number 8 with the New Orleans Saints, a team that could use a few different things. I think the offense maybe wants some upgrades, but there really isn't a guy up at the top of the board left. They might take the risk with the injury to a guy like Jordan Tyson, but Jeremiah Love is gone. I think that was a guy that we've kind of mocked to them a couple times, and they're kind of high on, but he's unavailable. So you're going to have to go a different direction. And a guy that had an awesome combine, that had some injury concerns, he's kind of pass those up. You're not as worried about his injury anymore. That is D lineman from Florida, Caleb Banks. This is a guy that could have went inside the top 10 anyways, and then he goes out and performs like that at the combine. Kind of shows you, again, his injury is not holding him back. He was really, really good. The Saints, they need defensive line help. They are losing an all-time pass rusher for them in Cam Jordan. He is heading out the door, going somewhere else, and you have to go out and address that now. I think Caleb Banks again can do that. If one of the three top edge rushers makes it to number 8, I think they would love that because again, they lost their best edge rusher, but they're not going to be there. They're way too good. The Saints are definitely a trade up candidate to try to grab one of those guys potentially. But I still like Caleb Banks a ton, an athletic freak at the D line position, can make a difference immediately for that Saints defense. Moving on to number 9 here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Will they return to the glory of the former 3 years of winning all the time? Colin, who you got them going here?
They did just release their tackle, Jawan Taylor. So I think filling in at that right tackle position would be Francis Mauigoa. I think this would be a perfect fit for the
Yep.
Chiefs at 9. He had a super good season there with Miami. And then also, you saw this year, the Chiefs' offensive line was not great. And I think that's another reason why the run game wasn't as strong as they would have liked it to be. So I think with Maui Noah, you get a really good pass blocker as well as he can maul in the run too. So I think this pick would really boost the Chiefs' offensive line, and if they can get that run game going again, they could be scary next year.
Yeah, and like we looked at it earlier in one of our combine or one of our mock drafts, I should say, and there was a statistic about his pass rush defense, basically falling in like the 1% of the time they get by him. So really, really good at just keeping guys out of the backfield. I believe he only gave up 2 sacks all year last year. They played 16 games, so that's really impressive, only giving up 2 sacks. That is similar to an NFL regular season. But on top of that, he is maybe the best run blocker we've seen in a while in NFL draft. Phenomenal run blocker. He is an absolute mauler, and that is why teams are recommending him move to guard. Some teams don't want him at tackle, but he has the size and the ability to stay at right tackle. So the Chiefs are a perfect fit because they have their left tackle. Right tackle is the weakness. I think they go get Francis Mauigoa. They protect Patrick Mahomes. That is obviously the crown jewel. That is the perfect guy back there. You don't want to get him hurt again. Mauigoa makes perfect sense to go out there, try to protect Mahomes, try to make that run game better. Again, just really, really good player, and he's available there at 9. It seems like a pretty good pick. Moving on to number 10 here. This is an interesting one. This is a Bengals team that need help literally everywhere. Their defense is bad from the D line to the safeties. They have nobody that you really trust. The cornerback room is okay. That is probably the only room that is okay. They are going to lose Trey Hendrickson more than likely. That doesn't seem like they're even have conversations. So he's hitting the free agency. Edge rusher would be a great pick here. I think there are some names out there that they could look at. But there is one guy on the board who has been talked about as a potential generational prospect at a position that isn't as valuable. And that is safety Caleb Downs. The concern, of course, he had a combine medical test that didn't show very good things. Meniscus had a slight tear. The ACL was degenerative. So think about Kawhi Leonard. If you watch the NBA, that is a guy that had degenerative knees, and he literally has to miss half the season sometimes because he can't play. Those are worrying things. There are scary things. But when he is as good as he is, if he can avoid those injuries, I mean, it's a really good pick at 10 to a team that desperately needs defenders. I'm going to take Caleb Downs. Again, I think there's a world where he drops, and this is a post-combine mock, and we have talked about him going higher than this. We've dropped him because of the injury rumors and news, and he could drop even further. We might, in later mocks, find out that he ain't going to go this high. But for now, I just think he's too good of a player. The Bengals literally need anybody, and when the best available player is on the board, you take them. So I'm going to go Caleb Downs, try to make a difference on that Bengals defense at 10. Moving on to pick number 11 here with the Miami Dolphins. Colin, where are they going to be going?
I've got him going cornerback here. I got him going with Mansour Delane out of LSU, former Hokie. He had a really good year there at LSU. He boosted himself up the draft board. And the Dolphins, they need a lot, and I think corner, you need one of those too. So I think he's probably the best player left at this point. So I've got him going with him here. I think it really can boost the defense, especially the pass defense.
Yeah, and I think there's a pretty clear argument that he might be the best corner in the draft as well. Jermon McCoy is going to be high up the board, and heck, we might be talking about him in just a second. But he's had the injury concerns. There's other guys in this draft that haven't done as well in college. PFF graded Mansour Delane as one of the best players in college football for the first few weeks of the season. When LSU was on that run and playing really good football, he was a 99.9 PFF grade. So he was probably the best player in college football at that point. I think that we still got to claim him as Virginia Tech fans. We developed him mostly. He just went and succeeded at LSU, of course, sadly. But a really, really good football player. Kind of you could see that in his days with the Hokies that he was going to have the potential to be this good, and he just showed it at LSU and really developed into that superstar corner. And then again, moving to the Dolphins, a team that needs a corner, best player available potentially, makes a ton of sense. They go with Mansour Delane at 11. Moving on to number 12 here, Jermon McCoy. Like I just said, has the injury concerns, and he would have probably been at the top of the board when it comes to corners with Mansour. We're going to take him this high anyways. This is a team that is in desperate, and I mean desperate need of cornerback help. They get the ball thrown all over them, and they've already had to cut guys. Trevon Diggs is no longer on the Cowboys. They don't have a corner really worth note on this team right now. So you go out, you grab Jermon McCoy, you hope that that injury is fully healed, which it seems like it is because he was actually suiting up to maybe play for Tennessee, but they weren't pushing for the playoffs. So instead, he sat out and didn't play, more so to boost his draft stock, just not get hurt again. Because if he got hurt a second time, then he might not even went to the NFL. He probably would have stayed in college. But either way, it makes a ton of sense for them. They desperately need a corner. He's probably one of the best talented guys at the top of the draft. Again, the worries about the injury are there, and that is why he isn't going as the number one corner. And there's a way he drops. But again, post combine, we're talking about a guy that he's probably healthy. Seems that he is. Going to take him at number 12 with the Dallas Cowboys, who desperately need him. Moving on to 13 here, a team in the LA Rams who maybe a week ago would have been upset with this draft class or the way it's went so far because Mansour and Jermad go right before them. But they added their corner. We will talk about that trade later when we get to the pick that they traded. But they're not going corner anymore, Colin. Where are they going at number 13?
Yeah, I've got him going Monroe Freeling from Georgia. He had a really, really good combine. He's probably the only true left tackle or the best left tackle in this class. Uh, the Rams tackles weren't terrible this year.
Yep.
They weren't great either. I think this pick, you could see the Rams maybe trade back with this
Yep.
pick because they really. I don't think they need receiver. They're trying to win right now, so I don't think you go with a receiver here. You still got Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams
Yep.
and some other receivers there. So you could see the Rams maybe trade back here, but if not, you get Monroe Freeling here. I think it's still a really good pick, even if he doesn't start immediately. If someone gets hurt, or he could even start over the current left tackle.
Yep.
So a good pick here for the Rams.
Yeah, and Alaric Jackson didn't have a horrible season at left tackle with the Rams. Like we said, we looked at that. We looked into his grades and how he played, but Alaric Jackson is not a superstar by any means, and there's very high chance he doesn't reproduce the season that he just had. And they already have their own concerns there at that position, so go shore that up. Grab a guy who come in at 6'7.5" at the combine. That is a behemoth of a human being. He's also just a very big player in general when it comes to just his overall size. Also playing left tackle. That, like you said, is the purest left tackle in this class. There is really not another guy that's in the same realm as him when it comes to what can he do at left tackle, which is the most important position when you have a quarterback who is right-handed. So Matthew Stafford, right-handed, needs a good left tackle. Monroe Freeling could potentially be that immediately for you. I think that is a win now move for them. Again, receiver, Devontae Adams is going to retire soon or leave soon. So you could look at that, but again, like you said, they're trying to win Super Bowls. You just had an MVP season with the receivers he had. I don't think he needs the upgrade there. I think the most important thing is protecting the old man back there. Monroe Freeling does that for you. Moving on to number 14 here. If this isn't one of the most obvious picks, looking at the number one need there on the board, Zay Flowers had a good season. Is there anybody else in that room, though? No, there is no one else. That receiver room is empty. They are relying on an old man and DeAndre Hopkins to make plays. And I think that they can absolutely add a playmaker in Mekhi Lemon, who in certain drafts earlier we had fall. Then he had an interesting combine. A lot of good things there, but his interview process was something else. We'll say that. The interview process was weird, best word available. But I think he's a really good player. He clearly was one of the best college football receivers. He wins the award. So put him out there with the Ravens. Give Lamar Jackson another top tier target to throw to. I think he's absolutely a playmaker that could come in and help that team. He does not play the same way that Zay Flowers does either, so it gives you two different types of targets. They're going to lose Isaiah Likely, more than likely. So when he hits free agency, you're going to need to add another weapon. Mekhi Lemon is the perfect guy to do so. The Ravens land a great player from USC at number 14. Moving on to number 15 here, Colin, a team that would have loved Sonny Styles to have dropped, not after that combine performance, but they're still looking at that position. We're going to go here at 15.
Yeah, I've got him going with CJ Allen out of Georgia.
Yep.
Uh, like you said, ideally here, they're not gonna get their guy because
No.
because of the combine performance that Sonny Styles had. CJ Allen is a really good linebacker. I
Yes.
think linebacker number two in this draft for sure.
Yep.
You're not mad about this pick if you're the Buccaneers. Obviously, you don't get your guy, but you're gonna have to trade up in the top five if you want
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love this pick for the Buccaneers. They need some help on that defense, and I think CJ Allen can help shore up in the pass game and in the run game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And he wore the green dot for Georgia, which is Georgia linebackers are almost just 100% hit rate. I mean, we talk about Ohio State receivers, Georgia linebackers are in that same room. They come into the NFL and they succeed most of the time. Again, wearing that green dot, calling all the defensive checks. That's also really impressive from him. He was calling their defense. So he was an on the field defensive coordinator playing middle linebacker and doing it at a very high level. So that is a phenomenal thing to hear. If you are a Buccaneers fan, you're getting a guy who is mentally incredibly smart, but also a phenomenal football player. And then again, on top of that, they've got aging veterans at that position. A perfect guy to come in and train CJ Allen, Levante. So it just makes a ton of sense that they go out, draft CJ Allen, let him be their superstar linebacker for the future. He can wear that green dot almost immediately. He can check the defense and call that for you on the field. I think he's a really good player, and it makes a ton of sense at number 15. Moving on to number 16 here with the New York Jets. They could go a multitude of directions. This is the first potential Ty Simpson spot. Don't think he goes this high in the draft. The Jets could trade back from this pick, and maybe that is where they'll move back, get him, or maybe come up and get him. But in this scenario, they're not going to land Ty Simpson here. They're going to go a different direction, and that is protecting whoever that quarterback will be, grabbing Vega Ione coming out of Penn State, one of the best guard prospects we've seen in a minute. He is a very, very good football player, had a great season at Penn State, and all the negatives that they had, he was one of the super positive players on the field. Also, again, not a problem at the guard position, has had no flare ups, no locker room issues. That's another great thing. Character is no concern with Vega One. So, really good football player, plays a meaningful position. The guards are actually becoming more valuable in football now because teams are going back to running the football. The Jets, they just brought Breece Hall back on a franchise tag. He's getting paid a ton of money. You want him running behind a really good offensive line. Vega One absolutely can be a part of that. Love the player, love the fit. Jets get a really good football player at 16. Moving on to number 17 here. This is an interesting one. Colin's going to be making the pick, but I want to preface it with Spencer Fanu, who Colin will likely announce here, a guy that can play multitude of positions. That's the interesting thing. You see center listed as a need for the Detroit Lions. There's some talk that that could be the position he moves to. Colin, why else are you going to have them going with the Utah tackle here?
Yeah, so actually they just now released Taylor Decker,
Yep.
their left tackle. So there's another need
Yeah.
there for the Lions. So I think Spencer Fano can slide in at left tackle and play it just fine. And then, like you said, he can play a multitude of positions. So say they don't like him at left tackle, they can also slide down and play
Yep.
center. But they did just release Taylor Decker, so I think that is a now glaring need for the
Yeah.
Detroit Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the kind of cornerstones of the team so far. They had their own issues last year. Like you said, Fanu can play that position. He played it comfortably in college. He did have the super short arms, and everybody's going to talk about it the same way they do with Ruben Bain. He actually has been hyped up as a really good center prospect randomly because of how good he is just as a blocker. And so now that you have the opening there, why not take a tackle prospect? Because if he is good enough to play left tackle, boom, you solve one of the biggest needs in football, which is the left tackle. But if he isn't, you need a center, and he's one of the top center prospects. An unbelievable player going at 17. It feels like a really good spot to get him because, again, we had him going like what, fourth or third going to the Cardinals early on in our mocks. We really didn't know about his arm length and how much teams weren't going to like that. But if he can play left tackle, man, that is a absolute steal at 17. And if not, he can slide in and play guard or center. He has been hyped up as a prospect that can do both of those things. Very, very good football player at 17. Like that a lot for the Detroit Lions, trying to get back on top in their division. Moving on to number 18 here with the Minnesota Vikings. A guy that has boosted his stock is Dylan Thieneman. Superstar player. I mean, again, the combine performance wasn't the best combine performance from everybody out there. Maybe not the best. That probably goes to Sonny Styles, but one of the best. He absolutely has put himself in a good spot to be drafted high. They have a perfect guy to coach him up and make him a better safety as well, who will be retiring very, very soon. So Dylan Thieneman, perfect fit for the Vikings. Love the player. And again, it just makes a lot of sense for him to end up with the Vikings at 18. Moving on to number 19 here with the Carolina Panthers. Colin, where are you going to have them going?
Yep, I've got him going with Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Obviously, the best tight end in the draft. He ran a 4.39, which is very, very good for a tight end.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Obviously, the most athletic tight end in the draft as well. And he could be the most athletic tight end in the league as soon as he steps on the field. So, a really good pick here for the Panthers. They don't really have a great tight end. And I think Kenyon Sadiq fills that gap immediately. And I mean, even if you have to slide him out, and he could probably play a little wide receiver as fast as he
Yeah.
is. He was faster than Carnell Tate. So I think this is a great pick for the Panthers, not only because they need a tight end, but also because I think he could be a versatile weapon for the Panthers, and they need to get Bryce Young some more weapons to throw the ball to.
Moving on to number 20 here with the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, we're able to address a different need earlier in the draft with Jermod McCoy. This is a team that would have liked to have had Sonny Styles available at 12, and they would have liked to have had CJ Allen available at 20, but those linebackers are just not on the board, not available. So we're going to go edge rusher. Obviously, another big need for this team as they traded away their best one before the season even started. We're going to go Keldrick Falk right here to the Dallas Cowboys. This is an absolute game wrecker. This is a guy that, if you look at production, he doesn't have a ton of it in the past year. But before that, he had some production. The year before, he was a solid football player. He has overall pretty good production over the last 2 years. He's also going to be a game wrecker when it comes to stopping the run, and that is something that will really help this Dallas Cowboys defense. So still a really good player, still a really good pick there at 20, but the linebackers being off the board is funny because they just missed out on both of them. I think they'll still be very happy with Keldrick Falk there at 20. Moving on to number 21 here, Colin. What are you going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers doing?
I've got him going with Ty Simpson, quarterback from Alabama. I don't love the pick, honestly, for the Steelers here, but he had a very impressive combine, and I think he's definitely going to go in the first round now after his combine performance. I think the Steelers could sign Aaron Rodgers, which I don't love that either. I personally would rather them just give Will Howard a shot, and if they're bad, then the quarterback class next year is going to be really, really good. So that's kind of the route I'm for. But Ty Simpson had a really, really good combine. He was definitely the best quarterback that participated by far. So I think you could see a team trade up,
Yeah.
something like the Jets trade up. I mean, they've got a stockpile of first round picks after the mass selling they did at the
Yeah.
trade deadline this year. So I think a team like that could trade up into the first round and take Ty Simpson. But in this scenario with no trades, I think the Steelers draft Ty Simpson here. And if you don't sign Aaron Rodgers, I think he's probably your starter day one. And I mean, at the end of the day, if he's a good quarterback and the Steelers hit here, I think that would be, I mean, crucial for him because I
Yeah.
mean, since Ben, they've really had no stability at quarterback whatsoever. And I think if you get a good young quarterback, that's exactly what they're going to bring is some stability to that position, and that's really what Pittsburgh's lacking at this point.
Yeah, and I will say, here's the potential upside with this. I've not necessarily fell in love with taking Ty Simpson in the first round either. Just like you said, you're not in love with it as a Steelers fan. But if they do re-sign Aaron Rodgers, it could be the perfect situation to draft Ty Simpson, let him play behind Aaron Rodgers for 1 year, and then Rodgers obviously is going to retire after next year, if not now. So then he gets to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year. Who was the last quarterback that sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a year? Jordan Love. A lot of success with the Green Bay Packers. Now, is that same resume or that same recipe going to come lead to success? I don't know because is Ty Simpson as high of a prospect? Is the question marks there for sure? But Aaron Rodgers is the perfect guy to learn behind for sure. And if Ty Simpson gets to come in for a year, sit behind him, develop, learn as a player, and then be the quarterback the next season, it might not be the worst route. I mean, like you said, the Steelers just don't lose. They don't turn themselves into a rebuilding football team. They just won't do it. It doesn't matter if they change coaches. It's just the way that they have ran things, and it seems like that may be the direction they're heading again, is to at least try to push for the playoffs and be a good football team. If that happens, I don't think this is a bad pick. It's just if he doesn't work out, then it is because then he sits on the bench for a year. You get no value on the team that you're currently trying to win with, and then he doesn't turn into anything special. And you do have a quarterback draft next year that is just incredible. So it is an interesting talking point. I think with a post combine draft, it's the perfect time to talk about taking Ty Simpson because he performed very well, and I do think it is a fit for the Steelers. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him on draft day. There is a multitude of things that could happen. Heck, a few years ago, we had Michael Penix taken, and they signed a quarterback in the exact same offseason and still took him inside the top 10. So Ty Simpson could go in the top 10. Who knows? We will see when we get there. Moving on to number 22 here. Of course, with the Los Angeles Chargers, this is a team that could use some help on the interior of their offensive line, but those two tackles are incredible. And I think I'm going to go on the other side of the ball and grab a D lineman and Caden McDonald out of Ohio State, another guy that had a pretty good day. He's also just a good football player and has developed a lot in college. He was part of a really good Ohio State defense, and he makes a lot of sense to the Chargers, a team that does need a little bit of help on the interior of that D line. Their edge rushers are pretty solid. They had a good trade during the season, and that helped out that part of the game, but a D lineman is necessary to come in and fix this team. Like I said, Chargers fans, I know you were sick of watching that O-line last year. They have two incredible tackles coming back next year, should fix that issue. And the interior of the offensive line is a little bit more easy to address via free agency or some other way. And you go grab the interior defensive lineman and Caden McDonald to help you out at 22. Moving on to number 23 here with the Philadelphia Eagles. They did not make it back to the Super Bowl. They didn't even really get that close. Colin, what are you going to have them do at 23? Try to correct those wrongs.
Yeah, I've got him going with Caden Proctor, a tackle out of Alabama, but it likely is going to slide down to guard here for the Eagles. He is an absolute mauler in the run game. I just don't see him sticking at tackle. He will
No.
be an absolute behemoth at as guard, but they do have a need there at right guard. So I think he could slide in there or move him to left guard and have your
Yeah.
left guard move to right guard. Either way, but I think he's definitely going to slide down to a guard. And I think he could be
Yeah.
phenomenal at the guard position. He is insane in the run game.
Yeah.
So I think he's exactly what the Eagles need here. You kind of saw a decrease in their run production
Yep.
this year. The offensive line is still really good. They do have that one position of need there at guard, possibly center, but you're not going to take that here in the first round with the centers in this draft class. So you got him going Caden Proctor.
Yeah, and like you said, the center, the only one that's really even considered in the first round is Caleb Lomu if he slides down and does that, and that's because of his versatility, his ability to play other positions. He's clearly not on the board at 23. Proctor, like you said, moving down to guard more than likely. Don't see him sticking at tackle with just some of the lapses he has in pass protection. But the big thing is he's going to have tackle pass protection at guard. So that's going to make him an even better interior pass blocker. He'll have some help on the inside and the outside. But then the other big part of this is he is a freak athlete. Him pulling to hit someone is going to be nasty. We are going to have some pancakes that we've never seen before with a 6'7", 360-pound offensive guard that can catch passes and run routes, running some dude over in a pull scheme with Saquon Barkley running up right behind him. There is a lot of potential for this to be a very good pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. Could absolutely shore up that offensive line, make them better. He is just an unbelievable athlete, a freak player, and it does make a ton of sense for the Eagles to go with Caden Proctor at number 23. Moving on to our next team here with the Cleveland Browns at number 24, a pick they acquired from the Jacksonville Jaguars in that trade down last year. They're going to go ahead and draft an offensive lineman here. It is a need for this football team, although they have addressed some of the needs going out and adding Titus Howard, not a bad football player by any means, and they go ahead and extend him for a long-term 3-year, $60 million contract. I'm still going to go Caleb Lomu out of Utah. Me and Colin both have had him higher in this draft before. We're also high on this guy. This is a guy that had a really good career at Utah, had a great season this year. Maybe not as good as he wanted, but again, a great football player, can come in and play tackle for you. He can address all the offensive line needs. And if he doesn't stick a tackle, move him to guard. He's going to be really good at that position as well. A lot of NFL tackles are great pass blockers, and Lomu can do that. But a lot of the time, the college really good tackles that can't pass block as well move into guard and dominate that position. So Caleb Lomu has a clear path to move into this guard position if need be, and all it does is shore up the O-line for the Cleveland Browns. You want to have an O-line in place before you get the quarterback. We've seen the examples of what happens. Joe Burrow, awesome career so far, except for the years he can't play football because he's injured. That's because the Cleveland Brown or the Cincinnati Bengals had no plan. They had zero plan on the offensive line. He came in there and just got wrecked all the time. And he's getting injured, and it's still happening to this day because they have never fixed the O-line. So if you're Cleveland, look at that example of a team in your division that their quarterback can never play football. Go help your quarterback. Protect him. Make sure he stays upright. I think that's the right decision to try to help Shador or whoever the quarterback is in the near future. Good pick there. Utah Ute heads down to Cleveland to play for the Browns. Moving on to number 25 here with the Bears. Who you going to have them taking?
Yeah, I've got him going with Cassius Howe out of Texas A&M. He was able to put up 11 and a half sacks in the SEC, which is you're facing some good tackles there for sure. And the Bears they need somebody to complement Montez Sweat. They didn't really have a great pass rush last year. They were still able to make it to the playoffs and made a decent little run. But I think Cassius Howe here, I'm really high on the guy. I think he could
Yep.
be a really good edge rusher. And like I said, that's what the Bears need. And the Bears are already a really good team. They showed that this year, and I think they could get even better with Cassius Howe.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Cassius Howell, phenomenal guy in the SEC. Production was high. 11 and a half sacks is a great year in that conference. Comes to the NFL, can be an instant starter for the Bears, who have had some issues with their edge rush pressure, not getting to the quarterback. That is only a boost to a team that, like you said, had an awesome season. One of the best years the Bears have had in a long, long time. I think the offense is already really good. They were able to even make a move and move off of a player who we'll talk about in just a second and send him to a different team in the other conference. But they have no offensive issues. They have some offensive line question marks, but overall the team is loaded on that side of the ball. Address the defense, try to make a run again, and be a really good team in the NFC next season. Moving on to number 26. This is a team that just traded for a receiver, and DJ Moore, adding him to this team was an incredible addition. I think that they gave up a pretty valuable draft pick too with the second round pick. I think the Bills are still in the market for receiver. They add one that doesn't make the receiver room instantly better. Khalil Shakir absolutely is a solid player in the slot, but we have learned that Josh Allen needs weapons, and that sometimes the plays don't work out because they don't have them. There is a guy glaring at you on the board in Jordan Tyson. A player that has been rumored to potentially go inside the top 10 is available at 26. If you're the Bills, you have the team where you could take the upside swing, go after a receiver who has had a nagging hamstring injury, and on top of that, many, many other injuries in college. But I think the player is so good that there is the ability for him to go inside again, the top 10. So if you're getting him at 26 with the Bills, I think they love the player. They love the fit in the system. Get him in there. He doesn't have to immediately be the wide receiver one because you went and grabbed DJ Moore, but maybe one day he can take over and be that for this offense. And then from one year to the next, you're talking about DJ Moore, Jordan Tyson, Khalil Shakir. That's a pretty good receiving core for Josh Allen to throw the ball to compared to last year. I think that they need to try to make a run again in the AFC next year. You might not have the Chiefs around with the Mahomes, maybe he misses the first few weeks. The Chiefs start out behind, and then again, you need to try to win because he is your kryptonite. And in the playoffs, Josh Allen has never beat him. So try to press and do that now. Moving on to number 27 with the Niners. Colin, where are you going to have them going?
Yeah, I've got him going with Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. None of the 49ers starting defensive tackles are under contract for the 2026 season, so they're going to have to do something there. And I think the upside on Peter Woods, he had a little bit of a dip in production this year
Yeah.
at Clemson, but I think the upside on this guy is incredible. He's super athletic for a defensive tackle, and I think, like I said, the 49ers don't currently have anyone under contract at defensive tackle. So I think even if you don't sign back any of those guys, I think Peter Woods can come in and start immediately and make it. He can be a big producer on that defense.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. This is a guy that quite literally was in a top five of a way too early mock draft a year ago, and now he's fallen all the way down to 27. It feels like the value there is potentially incredible for a team like the Niners, who have drafted very well over recent years, adding a lot of quality players. You think of guys like Ricky Pearsall and other players like that that have made differences for this team. I think Peter Woods can come in and be that as well. He could be an instant starter on the interior of your D line. I think receiver is something they may look at this position, and they honestly could look at an offensive lineman as well with some of the Trent Williams news. But I think Peter Woods is a perfect fit for a team, like you said, that doesn't have their D lineman returning next year. Again, a guy that was quite literally in the top five of mock drafts a little over a year ago, falls to 27. The value could be incredible. Moving on to number 28 here with the Texans, a team who have made a multitude of interesting decisions. First of all, they move off Laramie Tunsil before the season starts, and the offensive line was already pretty bad. They didn't have a good O-line. They trade one of the best pass blockers in football. They go into the season. The offensive line isn't good, as expected. But the defense is the best in football. They are getting after teams at an unbelievable rate, and the defense is winning them football games. They come up short because their offensive line can't block, and they don't make enough plays on the offensive side of the ball with how good their defense was. Well, what do they do to start the offseason? They trade their offensive tackle. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think that the plan absolutely has to be draft an offensive lineman because if you don't, there is a world where you go into the season and CJ Stroud doesn't make it out of the season because of the injuries that he may suffer. Because again, we've watched teams not correctly fix their offensive lines. I think you have to do that right here. There is a couple guys on the board that are interesting picks. I'm going to have them going with offensive lineman Max Ianicher out of Arizona State, of course, on a team that was in the playoff 2 years ago, was a really important part of that team because, again, they had a really good run game. They ended up giving Texas a great football game. Now he has made it into the NFL, and because of the need at the offensive line, they have to reach and potentially take a guy who wasn't maybe as high on boards prior to the draft process. Again, really good combine from him, and so that's important because that makes him more draftable, a little bit better player. And again, they look at the combine for sure. So a player like him has moved up the board. The Texans take him, try to fill the tackle need that they potentially have on both sides. But again, trading away your two tackles is interesting when you already had some offensive line issues. So Max Ianichar is the pick to the Texans at 28. Moving on to number 29, a team that, like we said before, trying to reclaim glory. They move up into this draft by trading away Trent McDuffie, and that is why we were able to not go with a corner for the Rams at 13. This is looking like a potential spot for weapons. Colin, what are you going to have them adding at pick 29?
Yeah, I've got him going with Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. His yards after catch ability is elite,
Yep.
and also he's really versatile. He can play slot, he can play outside. I know some comparisons have had him compared to Deebo Samuel, which if you're the Chiefs, you absolutely would love that. And you bring that versatility with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I think this offense goes right back to being elite. You get the offensive tackle with the first pick. If he pans out, and then Omar Cooper Jr. is as good as I think he can be, the Chiefs' offense is, I think, back and running like it used to be back when all those guys were in their prime. So I love this pick for the Chiefs, and really scary pick for the rest of the NFL potentially.
Yeah, I mean, this would be very scary. If they get Francis Mauigoa to fill in the right tackle position, which is arguably the best player at that position in this draft, and then grab Omar Cooper, who had one of the greatest catches in college football this season with the toe drag swag from Mendoza that pretty much locked up the Heisman for him. You got to give props to Omar because he made that play. I mean, again, they're getting scary, and I think receiver is clearly a need for them. Rashee Rice, for as good as he is, has some off the field problems, and he's had them multiple times. Unfortunately, that is coming back up yet again, so he's going to have to deal with those things. The suspension last year obviously hurt the start of the season for them, and that's why they didn't make the playoffs. They had a terrible start. Xavier Worthy, clearly a very good slot receiver, has the ability to stretch the field, but he doesn't do a lot else. And after that, they have nothing. The receiver room is empty. Travis Kelce is only getting older, and although he was good last year, it's another year of age and another year where they might need to add another weapon. So Omar Cooper feels like a perfect fit for a team that needs to add weapons. So he goes down and plays with the Kansas City Chiefs. And heck, I think that's a pretty good fit. You go from a Heisman quarterback in college to playing with potentially a top three quarterback of all time in Patrick Mahomes. That's nice as a receiver to get to play with those two quarterbacks. Moving on to the Denver Broncos here. This is a team that would have loved to have seen a certain number of guys drop to them at 30. I think they obviously would love CJ Allen. If they could move up in the draft and get a Sonny Styles, which again would have to be an unbelievable trade because he is going in the top five now, they want one of those guys. They need a linebacker desperately. And in this specific mock draft, we're going to go with Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. Again, one of the biggest things with him is his age. He is 21 years old coming into the NFL. He could be a guy that can play for you for 10, 15, I don't know how much longer than that. That's a long time, a hard position to play for that long, but 10, 15 years as a linebacker is unbelievable. If you're getting that out of a first round pick, it's obviously a hit. So I think they go after the young linebacker. He's got incredible speed, can play the linebacker position fast, and that's important for stopping the run, getting outside and making plays there, but also helps in pass coverage. If he needs to cover a quick slot receiver or a Kenyon Sadiq type tight end who's running a 4.39, he's got to be able to stick with those guys. So I think Anthony Hill is a really good fit to the Broncos there at pick 30. Colin, a team that played in the Super Bowl and was very underwhelming. The defense that had been so good it struggled to get stops. And unfortunately, the offense wasn't great either. A lot of question marks for this team, and it's kind of surprising that they have that many when they were in the Super Bowl. But where are you going to have them going here at pick 31?
Yep. So they just recently released Stephon Diggs. So I mean that's a gaping hole there at wide receiver. So I've got him going with KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M. I think this pick he's more of a slot receiver, but you've got Kayshon Boutte on the outside as well as Mac Hollins. So both of those guys had pretty good years, and then I think you add KC Concepcion to this offense, and it becomes even better. I think you kind of saw there in the Super Bowl that they were lacking some explosiveness on offense. The defense held up best they could, but the offense just could not get anything going. And I think this kind of helps with that. Maybe I don't know if he's better than Stephon Diggs, but I think at the end of the day, you've got a hole at wide receiver now after releasing Stephon Diggs. So this pick, I think, not a bad pick for the Patriots at all. I think Casey Concepcion's a guy who could even go higher than this at 31. So I think you're getting good value for it, and I think he could be a really, really good player.
Yeah, absolutely. We had him as high as I think 20, maybe 21 to the Steelers. I think we've had him as that high in our mocks before. So we're obviously pretty high on Casey Concepcion. He could come in and immediately start for the Patriots at the receiver position. He's not going to be Stephon Diggs, like you said. He's a different style of player, but they need explosiveness on the offense. Matt Collins, obviously a guy that's had trouble sticking on rosters, so he's not an incredible player by any means. Casey Concepcion could be that instant boost to the offense. Again, a great slot receiver in college, one of the best, probably the best slot receiver in this draft. So makes perfect sense. The Patriots go out and address the need when they were unable to score points in the Super Bowl, which is obviously very important if you want to win a football game. Moving on to the final pick of this mock draft, number 32, with the defending Super Bowl champions in the Seattle Seahawks, a team that is unbelievably good. They are going to lose a huge piece on the offense. We're not going to be correcting that here, though. Kenneth Walker hitting free agency could potentially be a massive loss. He was the Super Bowl MVP after all, but I think they're going to go on the defensive side. If you go look at their free agents, man, they are losing two of the best corners on the roster. And there is a clear corner, number one, available on this board, and that is Avion Terrell, a guy that could come in, be a difference maker for this football team almost immediately. He has some issues with his size. That is literally the only concern. When it comes to how he plays on the football field, there is zero concern. He is one of the best corners in college football. He could come in and immediately start for the Seahawks on a team that already has an absolutely locked down defense. It is one of the best that we've seen in the modern era. They are that good at getting stops, and you're adding a corner to that defense just to short up, make it stronger. Again, running back could be a need. Charbonnet will obviously be on the team next year. He did suffer the injury in the playoffs, but there's other guys that could go. I don't think they're going at 32. They could also address other things there. But again, Avion Terrell, phenomenal player. He's only available here because of his size concerns. Otherwise, he'd be much higher in the draft. Looking at the full board here, 1 through 32, Colin, I'm going to ask you, what do you think are maybe the best picks, the most valuable picks? Just which ones are your favorite as you're looking at this board?
Yep. So first of all, I love Sonny Styles going
Yep.
to the Giants. Like I made that Kyle Hamilton comparison. I think John Harbaugh could do a great job with his versatility, and I think you could see Sonny Styles be an immediate making an immediate impact for the Giants. Also, I like Caleb Downs to the Bengals. I think you do have the injury concerns now with him, but I mean, I don't remember being hurt in college. He played from his freshman year at Alabama. It was 100 tackle guy on that defense, so I don't really see too many concerns there. And then lastly, I like Caden Proctor. I like that pick to the Eagles. Not only do the Eagles have need there for guard, which I think Caden Proctor could be an amazing guard. Like, I think his ability to block in the run game is phenomenal. I think he might be the best run blocker in this draft, and I think moving him to guard, I think that could really put that on highlight. And I think that he could be an amazing guard in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that one for sure. Again, like I said, him pulling to block an edge rusher, or heck, I pray for if it's a corner coming downhill trying to make a play, they are going to get pancaked. It is going to be gross. That is a phenomenal player that if it works out, man, it could be an absolute steal. The Eagles draft better than most teams, so they are definitely a team that you could trust in the draft. I'm going to hype up my pick of the Titans taking Jeremiah Love at 4. Again, it's a high draft pick, so it's not like you're getting a steal, but there is a world the conversation to be had. Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. He is an Olympic level athlete playing running back. He will jump over you, he will spin around you, he will run you over, or he'll outrun you. He runs a 4.3 in the combine. So just an unbelievable player. I think the Titans can absolutely use a playmaker. Again, I don't think that they necessarily just need a receiver. They need a playmaker, someone who can catch passes, help out Cam Ward, make this offense better because there's a lot of lapses on the offensive side. I'm also a big fan of what we're doing on the offensive side, bringing in Brian Dable, who is an offensive coordinator that knows how to make his running backs better. Look at what Cam Skattebo immediately did in that offense. So very, very happy if they land that. I don't know if it's my favorite pick on the board. I think Sonny Styles would be great. I think I'd be happy with Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, but Jeremiah Love, a really good player there. Number 9 with the Chiefs. Man, if they land Francis Mauigoa and Omar Cooper at 29, it just feels like they're immediately back in the conversation, the AFC. Mauigoa could arguably be the best tackle prospect in this class. The only issue is he plays right tackle, not left. That's what the Chiefs need. He is going to help the run game, absolutely. Like you said, with Proctor being the best run blocker, Mauigoa might be the best as well. Those two are in the conversation. So I think that's a phenomenal pick for them. You move down the board a little bit. This is a combine mock draft after all. I have to give up the 2 Oregon Ducks in Dylan Thieneman and Kenyon Sadiq. Absolutely filthy combine performances from the both of them. The athletes coming out of that college are always incredible. Thieneman makes himself a first round pick with how good he was, going all the way up to 18. We had not had him in the first round yet, so I think that's a very valuable pick potentially by the Vikings. And then Sadiq. There is a world where Kenyon Sadiq could be the most athletic tight end to ever play in the NFL. That is an argument to be had. Kyle Pitts, obviously a phenomenal athlete playing tight end. Brock Bowers, in his own right, is a great athlete, but Kenyon Sadiq runs a 4.39 as a tight end. That is going to be a nightmare for linebackers in the NFL to try to cover. So I think that could be a phenomenal pick. I love it. I love the fit. Tight ends are really the best thing to help out a young quarterback. And Bryce Young might not be young anymore. He's been in the league a little bit, but it can only make him better if you add that good of a target. So I am in love with that pick. Number 19, Kenyon Sadiq, makes a ton of sense. And then last but not least, what could be a steal of the draft if he turns out to be as talented as he could be, and that is Jordan Tyson, number 26 to the Bills. There again was a full conversation being had for him to go number 4 to the Titans. He goes at number 26 to the Bills in this current mock draft, and I've seen him. Some people have him falling even farther in the draft. So again, this is an unbelievable player that if he's available that late, I think anybody getting him the swing potential to hit a home run is there. So I really like Jordan Tyson. Think he's a great football player. You're looking at the full draft. Of course, give us your thoughts in the comments. Leave what picks you guys think are the best. If you like what your team did, if you don't like what your team did, again, who you think the steal of the draft is. I mean, there's a lot of arguments to be had up and down this board for who the steal could be. Peter Woods at 27 is an incredible player. Avion Terrell at 32, a guy that we've had as high as in the top 20. So a lot of fun names on the board. I think this is actually going to be a pretty deep draft class. Maybe not so unbelievably talented at the top. We don't have a Joe Burrow. We don't have that level of prospect in here. We don't have a Myles Garrett on the board, but there is a lot of talent. I think even picking at 32, like the Seahawks are, they're getting a starter that can play immediately in the NFL. And not every year you can say that about a first round. Sometimes they're top loaded, and just like this one is more depth. I think edge rusher, of course, is going to be loaded in this draft class. We have some names that we didn't even put on here, like Akeem Mesidor, or there's a TJ Parker out there. Some unbelievable players that teams are going to be very happy to land in the second round. So we'll probably look to do a trade mock in the near future. We'll also look to do a 2-round mock draft sometime in the near future. But again, give us your opinions on what you guys thought. Colin, if you got any closing statements, time is now.
Yeah, you mentioned the edge rushers, and the deep. I think that the wide receivers as well are super deep. We didn't draft Denzel Boston in this draft, and there's some other guys that could go pretty high. But I think, like I said, this draft is super deep. I think there's starters all throughout the second round as well. So I think this could be a really good draft class.
Yeah, absolutely. And this feels like a lot like last year where there was not a ton of top end talent, but a lot of depth in the draft, and teams were happy to take 2 or 3 guys in the second round, move up and make those trades just to get more players because of how many good players there were. Like you said, with a guy like Denzel Boston, another perfect point to add on to the end of this. He didn't have a good combine. And so in a post-combine mock draft, we had him fall. We had him fall completely out of the first round. That is a guy that we've had going as high as the Steelers at 21 or the Bills at 26. So interesting to see him fall. We tested that, and you see how the board ends up falling for all those other teams. But again, join us again next time. We'll be back and try to do these weekly before the draft starts. We'll probably do a recap right after the draft and talk about what teams made what picks and where players ended up at and what positions that players end up at that we like. There's some fits sometimes that we really enjoy seeing a guy like a Jeremiah Love in an offense that he could just light it up and go off and be a fantasy football beast in year one. So that's another fun part of the NFL draft is seeing where players end up at. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll be excited to see you guys come back next time. Like, subscribe, comment. That always helps the channel out, and we'll see you guys when we see you guys. Peace.
Peace.